thanks a lot for coming on and taking the time. It's great. Obviously, I see you so much as a prolific element of the non-D extended universe, if I can call it that, if it's that big. I mean, I was sort of looking at your recent posts, and your most recent one, why non-dependence is a sublime career move. I kind of enjoyed that because it's part of your calling card, really, that sort of rallying cry that moves into practical advice. And you talk about non-D as a sort of stabilizing presence. And we'll talk a bit more about what non-D is, I think, a little bit later on. But it resonated me because of that aspect of the world of constant noise, industry noise, algorithmic noise, social media noise. And it sounds like, or it read like, you're like me, that you're constantly kind of looking for ways to navigate that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my thing is I just feel like we're always being scammed. Like, I'm like
Right.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
everything's always, someone's running a scam. So, like, when people talk about having a voice or getting their work out there, getting their film out there, like, it's meant, I think, with a lot of resistance and suspicion, and that's like a completely fair response to the cultural times that we're living in. Like, me too, 100%. So yeah, I think it's easy to get inundated with the noise that comes from that because it's telling you be consistent and do it this way and make sure you make a genre film. Like, there's just so much um like, it always makes me laugh to think we're living on a spinning rock, but, like, if we post 7 times a day, then everything will be okay. Like, what? Like, you know so, I mean, in that sense, yeah, I think part of the work of the non-dependent filmmaker and any human being, like, doing anything and wanting to live a fulfilling, nourishing life is to be discerning and know what to keep out and what to let in, and I think that's part of, like, having actual creative longevity.
Yeah. And you talk about that phrase walk away power, I think is really useful, which appears. And I think it, I agree totally with what you're saying, but it is kind of exhausting. It's like a labor of having to navigate what is going on all the time, and there's been loads of posts recently about, curating the self and how to do it. And then also, that idea of taste and what you should pay attention to and what you shouldn't. And it's just so difficult to kind of create that for yourself. But I think that's what a lot of your posts do. They help in that regard.
Yeah, well, I'm not interested, like, I think everything's a scam, so if someone tells me and maybe this is just me with a chip on my shoulder, I'm like, the baby sister, the youngest in my family,
Right.
everyone's like, "Oh, baby Court," and I'm like, "I can play too," so maybe this is my own, like, pathology, but, I generally think that, like, I just generally think that, like, we can decide for ourselves, and so if someone comes in and tells me it should be done this way, I automatically in my head think it should be done that way for you, like, for you, and that is a fine thing. So I get really bored if people say, like, "These are the ways to do the thing." I like to come at it personally, and I like to read. I get really compelled by people who read and speak and talk on these topics, when they say, "From my experience, this is what I've discovered." Because what that does for me is it allows me, Courtney, is to, like, figure out what's the underlying principle. Because if I can understand, like, the first principle that's making that choice right for that person, then I don't need to make their choice. I can just look at the principle and see how it applies to my own life. And that to me is more interesting and more fun and more provocative and just in general, like, more of the artist I strive to be.
Yeah. Yeah, but even that, I think it requires a kind of level of confidence and self-assuredness that I think
Yeah.
everybody, like so many people, are looking for. I mean, even kind of like in my background, there's this sort of sense of you should be at a certain level, and that guy has no problems whatsoever, and doesn't think about imposter syndrome and any of those kinds of things. But I think that's what's so fascinating about the way that you speak to an audience, that I think it is very kind of welcoming, helpful, but also turning the power back to that person and saying, you can take control of what it is you're doing, instead of being kind of dependent, again, to use that word.
Yeah, like, but I think that's I wonder what you think about this actually, but I think that's our natural state. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
we walked around as like 3-year-olds being like, "I wonder what my taste is." Like, my son who's 3 knows exactly. It's Spider-Man. He is sponsored by Spider-Man. I like before we even watched Spider-Man, he was like, "I that's what I like." My daughter, the same thing with like she was in a huge Mulan phase when she was 5. Like kids know what they like. I think our base level is like we do know what we like. I think the exhaustion around discernment and taste and all of that is actually like I think it's in Buddhism. I don't know. But like the idea of the second arrow, like the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
arrow
yeah.
is the pain and the second arrow is like the suffering because you're in pain. I'm probably butchering that and I apologize. Um but like I think it's the second arrow syndrome of being like it shouldn't be this way. Well, you know what? Maybe it
Mm.
should. I don't know. Like maybe it is
Yeah, yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to be this difficult. Maybe there's something to be found in that and I have imposter syndrome every day. I feel fear every day. I have to have hard conversations that I don't know that I'm gonna have like the spine for, and the wherewithal for. I make mistakes. I do things wrong, but like, what else am I gonna do?
Mm.
So when I frame it like that for myself, I'm like, well, you either like go in and do it and do your best and like let the chips fall where they may, or like what you like do something else with your life? You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's funny because, like, I come from a very sort of formalized background in terms of education, so I have that sort of 2 aspects to it, where I think over time my practice has changed a little bit in terms of being a teacher, which is I'm not here to tell you how it is. Like,
Right.
I'm here to offer you opportunities of learning in this way and that way, and look at the kinds of alternatives, and especially when it comes to kind of like, the way that the film industry and understanding film has changed over time. It was so kind of canonically regimented about these are the great films, and this is how to
Yes.
learn and understand them. But I think we can still draw from that, but I think it's always having that sense of adaptation, and
Mhm, mhm.
using things that are actually useful to us for what we're doing, I think is really important. But your background kind of leans into that, doesn't it? I mean, God, your the eclecticism of your artistic life: actor, dancer, writer, filmmaker, podcaster. You embody that sense of the multi-hyphenate, don't you, really?
Eclecticism is such a kind way to say it. I would say, like, "What are you doing, woman?" That's such a generous thing to say. Yeah, I mean, but don't you I mean, but so are you, right? Like, we are all these things. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
dancer, but I'm not really a dancer anymore. I used to be, and for what it's worth, like I'm not in the academic world, but I was in the theatrical world for a long time in New York, and that is also very regimented and like
Yeah, yeah,
taste
yeah.
is very like it's in taste and out taste. And like, are you in or are you out? Like there's a lot of I've written before about like C.S. Lewis's The Inner Ring. And I mean, I don't know if you've read that or not, that speech that he gave, but like I say it and I'm sure you get a sense of what it is. It's like there's always a better, more inner circle with more connections and better,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, like cooler people and Broadway, like the Broadway industry, not I'm not talking about like the people, but like the industry, the culture in New York is very much the inner ring. And so I also very much uh like subscribe to that. Like I was like, yeah, like I want to be the cool kid. I want to be the dance captain. I want to be the lead. I want to originate that role with this director because of that show because it means this and that. And then I got to a point where I ended up doing a show. I ended up uh, becoming the lead in an original play off Broadway, and it ticked all of these boxes in one way, and then it didn't tick all of these other boxes, and I was like, "Well, that's curious because I think I got what I wanted." Like, it ticked enough boxes that I was like, "I think I did it. I think I mean, I'm playing down the street from the market. I'm on 42nd Street, like, what's the difference? I walk one
Mm.
more block? Like, what?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And,
What does it live up to, It's
yeah,
there's
like
always the next thing.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, I was literally crossing Broadway, like, weaving through taxis thinking, "This will be the experience, Courtnney. Like, this will be the
Right.
experience. You make it to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Broadway,
yeah.
it is this right now, so how do you feel about that?" And that is kind of what, like, spun me out and got me out of, the chase for that inner ring, and then, like, when I got into other industries and things, I couldn't like, it never really had the same pull on me again because I'd already, like, unhooked myself from it mentally.
Yeah.
It does I say that broadly. I still want specific things from time to time because I think they'll promise something, right? I'm a
Yeah,
human
yeah, yeah. We
being.
all do that though.
Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah.
No, but I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Kind of writing on Substack as well. It's even a small way. It's just kind of like you write something you think is really good, and if you hear crickets, it's kind of like what is going on? You still want that
Yeah.
affirmation. But yeah, I had the same thing in academia where you get, like when I got my first academic full time job, I was like, oh my god, I'm made here. And then there's, you want to make professor and all these kinds of things. And then I got to the point where it didn't mean anything and I had to leave the job that I was in, and now I just do a bit of part-time and other
Yeah.
stuff on the outside, and I left that idea of what my life was supposed to mean alongside
Mhm,
that. I mean, there's
mhm.
a joke in academia where the question goes something like this. It's like the reason there is so much argument and political backbiting in academia is because the stakes are so low. You know what I mean? It's
Oh
like
my
sheds for
gosh,
horse,
sorry.
you know?
I feel the same way when people argue on Substack about
Yeah, yeah,
certain
yeah.
things with non-dependence. I'm like, the
Yeah.
stakes are so low in this
Yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I
that's it.
love that. That's so
You just
good.
have to kinda get over it, don't you, a little bit, but yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
mean, it's interesting, in terms of all those experiences, and again, I don't wanna do a kind of straight biography, but I wondered whether if you think about where you are now, did you have, any moments or experiences that happened when you were younger, perhaps in these careers that you look back and you think, "Yeah, that did have an impact on where I am. That stayed with me or that's helped me to where I am."
Mm. Well, I don't well, I'll say one thing, which is, like, this short little anecdote. So, like, I was always scared to, like, actually say what I actually wanted, and that's something that I still struggle with now. I'll kind of, like, hedge a little bit without just, like, saying something out loud and, like, letting someone say no, you know? And I was always like that as a kid. My dad told me that I used to he's like, "This is you, Court. Like, you, like, stand on the edge of a room and kinda take in the picture before you enter it, and then you figure out where you fit, and then you'll enter it," right? So there's, like, a little bit of protectiveness, a little bit of, like, give me the 30,000-foot view. And so I wanted desperately as a kid to be when I got to high school, I wanted to be the lead in the musicals. I wanted to do it because I secretly wanted to be on Broadway. And I didn't audition for anything. I was like, "No, I'll just stay a dancer. I'm a dancer. I'll stay a dancer." And so my freshman year came around. I was like, "No, no, just dancer. I'm not going to audition for anything." Sophomore year came around. I was like, "Okay, I'll audition for like the ensemble." And then my senior year came around, and I was like, "I'm going to audition for the lead." And I remember the director or the producer of it, like high school producer. He was like the I don't know social studies teacher or something was like, "Where did you come from? Like, you haven't been here the whole time. Like, where did you come from?" And I was like, "I don't know." My living room and which is kind of how I feel, by the way, in, like, the film world now. I feel people are like, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "My living room." But then I started taking voice lessons, and I remember my voice teacher and this is, like, the first. So I had been singing, I got the lead in a musical, but I hadn't had a voice lesson. I was like, "I should learn how to do this better." Like more you like I should have some craft behind this and not like sheer grit as like you can imagine a high school voice. And I remember my voice teacher saying to me, "Who do you like? Like whose voice do you like?" And I forget who I said, which tells you something. And I said the name and he said, "Well, that person's already taken. So you have to be you."
You have to define it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have to be Courtney, and so that is something I did not understand at the time, but I knew enough to know that eventually I would get it. I was like, "Ugh, that'll make sense later. I don't get it now." Um, so I don't know if that completely, like, answers that, but, I think that more than anything, it's not like a thing that has happened in my life. It's been like a
Yeah.
philosophy that I've gotten, and I've
Yep.
been able to, like, understand. I don't know, have you had stuff like that where you've, like something has clicked?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds of my psychology, but that there's certain moments I think that actually have been quite negative that have like
Yeah.
reframed. Oh, okay. I mean, and that's why I'm kind of like fiercely independent of a as a person. It's like nobody's coming to save you, in
Mhm.
in that sense. But then I've also I've had moments there's been a couple of teachers in very sort of offhand way, not like I've had a
Yeah.
mentor kind of way, because I don't feel I ever really had, but like somebody who said to me, this is what the way is to get to this position. It's not rocket science. You know what I mean? Like I had one with my best friend when I was doing a master's degree, and I sort of said, "What are you going to do after this?" And she said, "Well, I'm gonna go on to do a PhD and sort of do what these guys do who teach us." And I was like, "Well, you can do that." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
And I was
right.
like, it didn't even just occur to me that that was kind of an option. It's just like, yeah, if you want to do it, then you find out how to do it, and then you do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's it, it's a it's interesting that you just talked about kind of like your position in film. So I wondered, was there a moment when you sort of really decided like there was a pull of film that's the direction that suddenly you wanted to take?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of stumbled there. I will say, like, my whole life, you know, I've loved movies. I almost it's like saying I love music or I love air
Mm,
or like of course you love movies. Who doesn't love movies? Come on. Like kids are like give put on a movie, mom, it's like inherent in us.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like it's not like I was ever like, "Oh my gosh, cinema," because I've always loved it and I've always been like obsessed with it. But as far as my career went, I kind of transitioned out of not kind of. I transitioned out of acting and into writing. And without really a plan other than, like, I had a project I was working on. I wrote a book, and I really enjoyed that process. And so, like, in my mind, I was comparing the processes of, like, going to that show to do that show versus writing. And they were both enjoyable, but the writing thing had a quality to it that was like it was, like, electric. I was like, "Oh, something's happening to me as an artist, as a person, like, I'm a better wife and friend right now, like, I'm happier." So something clicked, and when I wrote that book, it got optioned, and when that option happened, I was like it was like me auditioning for the high school play all over again, like, "I'll write it. I want control."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, not I wanted control, but, like, let me take a swing. Like, I think I can try. So I kind of again, like, to use my dad's kind of framing of who I am, I was still kind of on the outside, I was teaching myself how to write screenplays. I was, like, reading books that people tell you not to read and, like like, doing all this stuff. Um and writing some really, really bad stuff. And eventually I started writing better stuff. And then I realized, and then I had a baby and I became a mom and had a really difficult labor that ended up like being a difficult postpartum period. So it took me like a year to bounce back from that. So I go through all this stuff where I'm like writing, I'm getting there. I'm like getting my, craftier. And then I have a baby and I kind of stop. And I said to my husband when my daughter was a year old, like, if I don't direct my own things right now, I won't, like, nothing will happen. Like, no
Right.
one's going to say, breastfeeding mom,
Yeah, yeah.
please come direct this
Yeah.
movie. It's
Yeah, yeah,
you,
yeah.
darling. Like, right. So I mean, it was kind of like like life kind of forced my hand to be like, you've been on the outside of the room for a while. What do you want to do? And
Mm,
I was like, well, let me do this. And that's why
right.
I'm
And then was the kind of progression for that to think, right, okay, I need like a kind of formalized production company. You set up Queensbird Films, and then that moves into Kingsley Versus, which we'll talk about.
here. Yes. Um, I I didn't from the time that my husband and I had that conversation to the time I was on set for my short film before Kinsley Versus
Okay.
was 6 weeks.
Okay.
I
Wow, that's quick
so
then.
I had done yeah, so I had done all this writing,
Mm,
and I pulled stuff, like, I just ripped stuff from myself and made something into a short film that used to be like a series or something like that. I made it into a short film, and so I had material, and I had my fatal flaw and or gift, I don't know which one yet, is that, like, I'm very comfortable being a beginner. Like, I love not knowing something and learning, and speaking about low stakes, I love the low stakes because 'cause I'm extraordinarily hard on myself. So if I know so see, this might be a protective thing,
Mm.
um, that I should figure out on my own, not on a podcast. But if I am beginning something, I'm, like, actually pretty brave about it because I'm like,
Mm.
"Well, how would I know? I don't know anything." Like, you know, I I don't have any expectations of myself. I don't know how it's supposed to go. So I luckily surrounded myself with a whole bunch of people on set who were kind people who would also help me when I
Right.
called sound speeds wrong all the time. I still get it messed up, but
Mm.
anyway, um, point being, no, Queensbird did not happen until after I did the short film, and then only after I actually executed and, had an editor editing it, did I say, "Let me figure out how to I have this other idea for a podcast, I have this other idea for a series, I have these ideas for scripts, let me, like, house them under an umbrella," and that's why, I made Queensbird.
Right, right. And I watched all of the episodes last
Oh.
night.
Oh,
I
you're
really
so
enjoyed it.
nice.
I mean, it's no, no, not at all. And sometimes you kind of you do it as a chore to watch things.
Yeah.
But I really I have to say that the thing that struck me about it was how well written it was. You know what I
Oh,
mean? I think I mean dialogue. It has to be believable, and like I'm really got an antenna for like terrible. That's why I can't watch of half of like the movies that come out. It's like because the dialogue is so bad. But I love that kind of rhythm of the anxious thought. And I take it that there's a sort of quite a heavy autobiographical element to that in terms of like the noises, and then they become
yeah.
actual characters.
Yeah. Well, you know what was crazy? We filmed that in my apartment when we lived in New York.
Right.
We moved out of New York now, but that was my apartment. And so the day that we filmed the opening shot where she's sitting there at the table and all the voices are around her, we were
Yeah.
down this long hallway in the apartment and I was standing there at the monitor like watching. And I'm watching them like zone in on or zoom in on Kinsley with all these voices and I'm hearing everything right through the headphones and everything. And I just start crying. And I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize that everything that I've written has been at that kitchen table, in that kitchen, in that spot." I have had all like, I'm getting, like, teary-eyed now thinking about it. Like, um, I I have been her, being like, "What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, am I an absolute fool for being an artist and trying? And who am I? Who am I? I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
know."
Yeah.
And so I just started crying and I was like, wow, you would think by the 7th day on set, I would have realized I wrote a story about myself. But it like didn't occur to me, right? It didn't really occur to me until I saw her in my space. And of course, a lot of what happens did not happen, like it's one of those things where it's like it's real, but it's not true. You know what I mean? Or it's true. What is it? Is it true but not real? No, it's real, like, the emotions are real, the feelings are real, but the storyline is not true.
Yeah, yeah. There's a real sort of there's an authenticity in the scenarios, I think, and in the way that the central character as well is sort of dealing with these. And it's what's interesting is that it does sort of dance on that line of she's not annoying, but she could be like really
Yes,
could be and sort of self-involved and that kind of thing.
yes. Well, that was one of the major things that I wanted to explore, probably because this is, like, my self-deprecating sense of humor. I'm like, "Oh god, here I go again." Like, it's my kind of, like, editorial, board that's in my head that's like, "Chill out, Court."
Mm.
But yeah, like and there is, like, I think there is a sort of, like, tediousness to navel gazing, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like when you get s it's like and I wanted to explore that in all the extremes because, like, I also do have I mean, it's not diagnosed, but I 100% have generalized anxiety disorder, like, I check the
Mm.
boxes, and I've worked on that, in therapy, anxious feelings and anxious thoughts in certain situations. And the thing with anxiety that I found is like you can't beat it. Like you're not going to outthink it. It will always outthink you. And so like when you're looking at them in a script, right? Like that can be kind of annoying cuz you're like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
over it. You're
Yeah,
fine. Like everything's fine. So
yeah.
I'm glad that you picked up on that. And
Mm.
I actually no one's like ever pulled that thread before, and it is something that I thought about a lot in writing it and in
Yeah,
producing it too.
yeah. And the other thing from a kind of, well, it's a filmmaking standpoint, but also it's about how the theme underlies what's actually happening. So what I'm getting at there is that she's got the noise in her head, so all of these voices, and they become the characters. But also, it's interesting how that kind of aligns or clashes with all of the voices that are on social media or her boss, on all of
Yes.
those kinds of things. So it's like it does sort of I mean, it's not didactic about it, but it does sort of say we've got all these things in our heads, and then they're amplified twice and three and four times
Yes.
over with all of this social media environment
Yeah.
we now exist in, which is so hard to kind of navigate. Kind of like, no, it's no wonder so many people like struggle kind of mentally in this day and age.
Yeah. Well, and also, by the way, that was we filmed that in 21 and 22, like the end of 21 and the beginning of
Yeah,
22. So we were all coming out of COVID. And
yeah,
like
it's a
so all
post-COVID thing. Yeah,
yeah, like that it is very COVID coded,
mm.
that script and that production because isolation and feeling trapped and feeling like at the same time, like, completely stuck and grounded, but also fully untethered and, like, not knowing what to hold on to and, like, what is real and what is not and what can I trust and what can't I, and, like, all of that stuff I feel like was culturally for a lot of people so
Yeah,
alive, and I
yeah,
still feel that we're like, I don't feel like we've, like, processed our collective trauma
no
from
chance.
that period, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah, like,
for sure.
and yeah, so I think that I feel like you almost can't I can't talk about that series or that time period in general of, like, art in general being made without, like, understanding what we had just, like, physically gone through.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think as well that the trauma of COVID itself as a kind of as a sort of medical social
Yes.
pandemic we haven't processed. But you've got to think about it. We that has come only maybe 4 or 5 years after the mass social experiment that is social media
Yeah.
and smartphones. So it's these two things kind of clashing together has created this kind of weird psychological anxiety in so many people. I think
Well,
you know.
yeah, and, like, you see that in the movies, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you see that in the music and the art that people are making. I feel like, uh, the things that I'm interested in and have always been interested in are, like, kind of like the Charlie Kaufman, Yorgos
Right.
Lanthimos kind of, like, bizarre, a little bit surreal, but we're still grounded in reality world, like, I think that's what I was trying to accomplish with I know that's what I was trying to accomplish with Kinsley, like, kind of merging that line, and I see so much more of it now, like, even, I know this is a broad example, but, like, Everything Everywhere All at Once, when
Right.
that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
came out, I was like, "Oh, thank God," because, like, I wanna see stuff like that, like, and if that's happening at the, like, broad, like, mainstream level, then we're just gonna get more and more, and I feel like that's happening, like, I
Yeah, yeah,
see
yeah.
that
Yeah.
tension in a lot of films.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much of that. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that film, but I understand why it was sort of a cultural
Yeah.
signpost in many ways. But like
Mhm.
Eddington as well from last year, and there's the Weapons, these
Mhm.
films that are kind of like defining that cultural state. I think a lot of them are trying to sort of capture this post pandemic, post social
Yeah.
media frame,
Yeah.
frame of thinking, I guess.
And the mental health aspect too, like, I think that
Mm.
a lot of people are more open about that because, like, we all got pushed to our limits, like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and also the political climate, I mean, like, like, we could there's so many reasons, like,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
we're
yeah.
all just, at our wits' end and, like, the pretense is dropped, you know? So, yeah, I like seeing that in work. Like, I want
Yeah, yeah,
even if something isn't political, like, even if a piece of a film, for instance, isn't, like, political, a political story, like, I feel personally, and everyone has their own opinion, I feel every piece is inherently political because it's part of the world and it's describing
sure.
the material reality of life in some way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I like to
No,
see that
absolutely.
stuff.
Absolutely, for sure. I really want to get into your kind of formative film going experience because that's what you know. That's my kind of biggest interest with the Substack. But I'm going to save that till a bit later because I think that what you've talked about sort of brings me on to like your Substack and the you know your reason for starting that and how you see Substack integrating with everything else. But I really like the phrase "Let's go again" because it's both a sort of production meaning and a existential meaning. You know, another take, another attempt.
Yeah.
You know, so what was the sort of thinking behind it? Yeah, no, I'm gonna start my Substack, and that's going to be a kind of central part.
Well, I had, like, dabbled in 2022 with the idea of it, and then I kind of abandoned it, but I've always been, since I kind of, like, left the theater, I've always been, like, working on my email list, and some years have been
Right,
better than others, so I always had an email list that I was writing to kind of about different things. In 2023, when Kinsley came out, um, I was, like, really, like, "Okay, I've done 2 projects now." Kinsley was only my 2nd, directing project, and I thought, "Okay, at this point, we need to, like, put all of our eggs in one basket and, like, just go in that direction and, like, see what happens." And so from a from a marketing standpoint, I just started, like, working on my email list more, and then when 2024 came around, I knew that I wanted to come over to Substack because I was like, there's a network effect element, there's a social element, um, there's ease, there's just like certain things are easy. And so I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. That was different, that was like Substacky, I just was like looking for a place to organize my thoughts. So at first I came over and I just called it the Queensbird Zine. And then I was like, "Zine, Courtney, like you don't like you're not even you think zines are cool, but like you're just using a random word."
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
very Substacky to be like
yeah,
call
yeah.
it, and there's nothing wrong with it. I was just like
No,
I
they're
felt
making
my
a comeback, so you know,
yeah,
zines are
no,
making a comeback, aren't they?
zines are so cool. I love them, and I don't have any problem with anyone using it in their name at all. I just felt it was
Yeah,
me like playing a role, and I was like,
performing. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, "Don't perform that,
Mhm.
you silly goose." So, anyway, yeah, so I changed it to Let's Go Again, and, that has evolved, like, I think the thing that underlies what I write about is, like, I really like the idea of critical thinking, and I like the idea of investigating our own interiority and then how it shows up on the outside, like, I don't want it to be navel gazing, like, I don't find that interesting, but what I do find interesting is, like, really investigating things that we take for granted and trying to reframe them so that we can actually change and affect the world around
Right.
us.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing I think you get from your voice, really, you know, that sort of sense that you're taking a particular kind of feeling or a problem and then it's kind of reframing it and okay, so what does that how can I apply that in you know, to a certain situation? I mean, one of the big ones that I sort of read a lot because I'm really not one for marketing or branding. I do it out of
Yeah.
sufferance because it's the only way really there's a kind of coherence
Yeah,
to
yeah.
how people see you in some
Yeah.
ways. But I love the way that you talk about that in terms of meaning making and like
Yeah.
creating a universe, you
Yeah.
know, because
Mhm.
that's language as well that people can get behind in terms of film, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier is like, um, everything's a scam. So
Mm.
if I have to exist in a scam, how am I going to scam the scammers? Like, that's what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanna
yeah.
do. Like, I if I have to use these tools that are, like, really only, here for exponential growth and not for, like, um the goodness of humanity? Like, how can I take those tools for exponential growth and subvert them for my own means and my own gain? And what do I care about as an artist, as most of us do? Like meaning making. And
Yeah, yeah.
my day job's in marketing, so I have a certain skill set. Like I understand that. I used to be an actor, so I really understand psychology. Like
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
these things kind of add up for me. And then I'm just like, how can I put them together in an interesting way that isn't insufferable? Because a
Mm.
lot of marketing advice is insufferable. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
and it's and the thing with it is like it's not wrong. Like it's not wrong. Like hooks work. Like
Yeah, yeah,
certain
yeah, yeah, yeah.
headlines work.
Yeah.
All of that works. But like what's the bigger picture that we're trying to do here? And like that's where I am. And that's where I actually like, to be fair, sometimes feel like people probably do not know what the hell I'm talking about half the time, because like sometimes I'm talking about this, sometimes I'm talking about that. And to me, like I'm the coherence. Like it's me. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
and that's what I like to see in other people is like I don't care where they fall. I don't care whatever label you put on yourself if or you feel you have to have. Like if you say something really interesting and then you intersect it with this other thing that's really interesting, I'm a fan for life. I'm in.
Mm.
I'm hooked. Like
Yeah, yeah.
give me more of that world.
No, no, it makes sense. It's something that I find just so difficult. Sometimes I tend to kind of just like, no, I'm just going to continue to be kind of pretentious and over raw in my writing. Do you know what I mean? Because
Like
that's what I'm
no,
used to.
but Dario, no. Like you should. You should.
Mm.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that is not I think that's the feature. The
Yeah, it's counter
feature
programming. Yeah.
Yes, no, it
Yeah.
really is, like, the feature I read so you've been so kind to, like, reflect to me on my stuff, but let me reflect to you, like, I read yours when I'm like, "I need to be challenged, and I need to be smarter." Like, I need to think about this from an angle that I would not have considered because, like, you're, like, one of my teachers, like, you don't know it.
Oh, well,
I
it's
have
nice
all
of you
these
to say that. It really
No,
is.
I have and I really look at people as my teachers because I love being a student, so I'm like, what is this person gonna, like, blow my mind with next. And like even for instance, I know this was a while ago, and I know I talk about it all the time when I tag you and things, but like when you were able to put like the framework around manifesto thinking in the non-dependent space and not even just non-dependent, just on film stack in general, and you were able to kind of break it down and look at all these different parts of it, like I would not want to read any kind of watered down version of that. Like the benefit and the texture and, like, the quality of that is singular, right? And it can
Mm.
only come from you, and because it can only come from you, like, it's a high value thing. So I think part of marketing, like, I know marketing, ew, but, like, part of marketing is being yourself, and it's not an easy thing to do, and you do always have, these outside voices or inside voices saying, like, "Do it this way, though, because that
Yeah,
works
yeah,
for
yeah,
that
yeah.
person." And part of really good marketing is, like, knowing who you are, and the other flip side of that is who you are is always changing, and you never arrive. So it's like it's a dance. So I
Yeah, yeah, it is.
you didn't ask my opinion,
Well,
but I
I
gave it to you.
no, I really do appreciate that, and you know, I wasn't sort of fishing for the external validation, but it's
No, no,
interesting.
no.
It's interesting, isn't it, though? Because sometimes you have that thought of, yeah, I need to be myself because that's the interesting part, but also I'm not interesting as myself. Do you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
that sort of
Mm.
anxiety. I think we all carry it at times, but you know, I really, I mean, in talking about the manifestos thing, I think that you know your sort of deployment of that, you know, in because you wrote a specific manifesto as well, and encouraged other people to kind of think about what is your ethos, you know, what sort of drives you, and I think that perhaps is the thing that spills into non-day or non-D, however you want to say it, you know, and you know, was that something that kind of immediately you identified? You thought, I want to be part of this. I don't know how you know, whether you knew Ted from before or anything like that. How that sort of all developed. You thought, okay, here is a kind of a program of thinking and a program of action that I can kind of get behind, and that makes sense to me. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I I no, I did not know Ted. I Did not know Ted, and I, but not actually now have, but had my gosh, I haven't slept in days. I had not a large film network at all. I mean,
Right.
my filmmaking network has exploded since Substack. Um, but ever since I started writing my book, this is the stuff that I've been writing about. Like, my book
Mm.
was about how to sustain a career as an artist. Like, that's what it was about. So, I have been thinking about this. Um I used to call it, like, the 21st century independent artist was, like, my phrase for it, right? Because I saw myself as a filmmaker, but I saw all these overlaps in people on my list who are musicians and artists and all kinds of creative people. And then when I saw Ted use the term non-dependent enough, I was like, I mean, first of all, when I saw Ted writing about what he was writing about, and I saw people responding, I was like, these are my like, this is what I believe. Like, it's not
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh, it
yeah.
clicks." It's like, this is what I've been trying to say, but he's able to say it from a vantage point that's so much more credible, and I mean that, like, not in a dismissive way of me, but, like, he's lived that life. He's been inside the system. He understands it, and now he's giving a name to that. Like, that has some power to it,
Mm,
and I felt I a lot and I did the thing where I stood back and I kinda watched for a little bit. I was like, "I don't know. Is
mm.
this a scam?" You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I made the judgment to myself that I said to myself, "I think Ted Hope is talking about what I believe in." I think that he is, talking about something that, like, a lot of people in his position might agree with, but not say out loud.
Mm,
And you know what? Like, I buy into this, and,
mm.
so I'm going to use the word because I also know if I use the word, it's part of how we infrastructurally coalesce, just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
language, right? Just giving something a name. So that's kind of I just started using the word in what I was writing and referencing, like, people's work that I really liked, and, you know, I mean, that's kind of how I got involved in everything. I just kind of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
stepped into it, for
Yeah,
better
yeah.
or worse, yeah.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I guess as well, the sort of the question of how to define it is something you've talked about a lot, and I don't want to kind of keep reiterating, so you have to keep doing that all the time. But I guess it's the one of the questions I'm always sort of unsure of, or I'm always like thinking to myself, is what's the difference between the history of independent filmmaking that has gone right back to the beginnings of when the Hollywood system was around. There's always a center and then there's a periphery, right? There's always an independent. But I guess I don't know whether it's simply the idea that it's a different mindset of wanting to break from one to the other. Because that's always been the problem of, say, things like Sundance and what Sundance has become, which is always like, yeah, you make it as an independent filmmaker, but the aim is always to get to Hollywood. Is that the kind of main thing that this rejects, that direction of travel?
I think I would say that. Yeah, like, I think the way that I always explain it as, like, succinctly as possible is, like, it's non-dependence on the system. It's
Right.
non-dependence on
Yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah, yeah.
It's saying, like, "Look, Hollywood comes and goes, but friends are forever." You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what are we doing? And it's kind of my last post about the stabilizing career, right? It Hollywood is not stable. Like,
Yeah.
and when you start making I think, like, I have gotten to a certain age where I'm like, "Well, I have this much amount of time, like, I gotta, like, do something here. Am I gonna spend all my time trying to get one tiny, director's chair that they hold for, like, one special person to do one special movie that I haven't written, that I have no involvement with, that I am, like, almost like, I'm overly managed by? Like, what is the end goal? And I think for non-dependent filmmakers, it's not to disparage that. Like, if that is someone's goal to do that, then, like, do it. Like, hell yeah, live your life. Absolutely, I don't think that there is a moral problem with, like, pursuing a Hollywood dream if that is what you want. The thing I think happens is that's actually not what people want. I mean, not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
always and not everyone. I'm not It's
And
it's
the
not.
outcome is never the outcome now is often detrimental in the long run. You know, you
Yeah.
see independent filmmakers who make a good small budget movie, they end up getting a blockbuster Marvel film, and it kind of screws them entirely, you know?
Yeah, and it's like it's that inner ring thing, right? It's like, but
Yeah,
that would be better, right? And, you know, Dario, we do not have time to get into the patriarchal dominant narrative and culture today. Next class, but but like we are so locked in to how we see the world that we don't realize we've been given how to see the world. We've been
yeah,
told how to see the world. And so unhooking from that and like taking those glasses off and saying like, what do I see and what do I want? I believe is is the non-dependent filmmaker's kind of underlying like hum, the thing in the engine that like keeps everything going. And so
yeah, yeah, yeah,
non-dependence is saying like, okay, um, there's a lot of consolidation, there's a lot of mergers, there's a lot of censorship, there's like all this stuff going on politically in Hollywood and yada da da da. So can't depend on that. So I'm not going to depend on that. And so what are my alternatives? My alternatives are to connect directly to my audience and not necessarily in the creator audience relationship way. Like when I say direct connect to the audience, I'm not saying like get 38 million viewers. I mean subcultural entrenchment, like who is around you, who will watch your stuff and you grow little by little. Um and you value the audience in a way that they're not a transaction. They're not just a box office number. It's like, did you fill the did you fill the room, right? Like you don't have
mm,
to tell me how much you made, but did you fill the room? And by the way,
yeah,
that's an
yeah,
idea from Brittany at Citrus Substack. So I don't want to claim that she wrote something on that was really really good. I'll try to find it and send you the link. Um but anyway, like different metrics for audience engagement and community building. And then also, can I sustain my career? Like, I personally, me, Courtney, I want a career like Ted's. Like, I want to make 70 films. I want to make as much as I can. I want to feed my family. I want my kids to, I want them to be able to do activities and like, you know, pay the bills. So I want a lot. I don't know if I'll get all of that, but I know for sure I won't get that if I try to chase the Hollywood system. I just know
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, no, and I like the sort of, because 'cause I'm kind of, in terms of going into freelance writing, that sort of sense of I have to get paid at some point, and that's
yeah,
it's so interesting how there's kind of a lot of pushback on that on Substack in certain areas where it's kind of like, oh, everything should be for free, and it's kind of like, no, people have got to eat, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like
100%. Yeah.
finding the mechanisms for that. But I think that the one other thing, and now I'm going to compliment you and say what your superpowers are in terms of your Substack. So, like for the first 6 months, I got the impression that it was all very kind of like platitudinous and like buzzwordy, non D. But I think your project, the non D50 films, really kind of consolidated this idea that it could break beyond the internet, because even though the internet is often the platform, the process by which we make the initial connections, and obviously it's absolutely vital, it can't stay there because platforms are imperfect. So that project, I think, obviously it's a consolidation that is so kind of vital and material. So yeah, talk us through that. Was that something that just came to you kind of, I don't know, in a flash of inspiration, or what was that driving force behind that?
Well, I am an insufferable person and read a lot of political essays.
Okay.
It's one of those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And and
No,
I
I
was
do
reading.
too. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, I'm one of those like a feared democratic socialist, and I
Mm,
really care about coalition building and community building and
right.
all of this stuff. And as a lot of us do. And so I was reading an essay thinking about how political movements like democratic socialism, like universal health care, these like platforms or whatever, it's never just saying like, I want to do it because this person said, right? It's always a group of people saying together, like,
Yeah.
enough already, let's go. And I had this feeling reading this essay, I was like, whatever this person is talking about in terms of like how to coalesce around these certain political messages that he wanted to coalesce around, I was like, this is the same for non-dependence. Like non-dependence isn't necessarily political, but it's not necessarily not, right? Like it has a political aim, which is sustainability and materiality and like people being able to have careers and like middle class, working class people getting by. And so I thought like the way that they do it in politics is like they endorse each other. Like they support each other. They go to each other's rallies. They hype each other up. They're each running their own race, but they all agree on democratic socialism or universal health care or like universal child care. So I was like, that could be a model for us. Like because that could be one of these things that translates the idea into the action. And so I hesitated putting it out. I had it written and then I shirked a little bit. I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know." Because I had 2 thoughts. I thought, 1, either people are gonna hate it and or, like, ignore it, which is, like, oh, awful, right? I'd rather be hated than ignored. Um,
Yeah.
actor for life. And, but I reasoned with myself, I can at least delete it. Like, if no one looks at it, I'll just delete it. And then my second thought was, "Oh, no. If people do like it, then I'm gonna have to figure out what all this means." Because I don't have a plan. I'm just saying, like, this is what I kind of see could be really great. And then people responded. And I think that and again, just to be clear, no one was responding to me, Courtney. They were responding to the idea. And that to me is the tell, is that the fact that like, who am I? Like I'm not Ted,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not anyone, but people are hungry for this and people are trying to do it on their own. And I just uh like said some things that they already believed and then added on, let's do it together. And people were like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It started.
it's interesting because I think one of the difficulties, or one of the big changes, I think, between sort of traditional understanding of the relationship between the filmmaker and the audience, or the film and the audience, is that shift where you're often kind of looking to persuade those who are making films that audience building is not a compromise, is not kind of a hustle. Do you know what I mean? It's part of a new form of practice because the audience is so diffuse. And also, it's ripe for that because everybody's kind of getting sick of going to these big movies and sitting, in watching anodyne films that they've seen 1,000 times before. So we are, I think, on the cusp of being able to regenerate a different relationship between films and audiences.
100%. Like when there's so many things that I read um on Substack, off Substack, just talking to people in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, we just need the money to make our stuff. Like, that's it. Like, someone come in and give us money and let us make our things. And like, and, if we know how to talk to the audience and we know not just how to talk to the audience and like at them, but like engage with them in a real way, th- there's just like so much potential, I think, for
Yeah, yeah,
non-dependent filmmakers and audiences alike to just yeah, because we all want the same thing. We're all on the same page. It's just like the financial part of it is the trickiest part, and that's why I think yeah, like that. And I could say that about literally any industry right now or anything right now. It's just the truth of it.
and
Yeah.
how does since you posted it, and obviously there's more than 50 films now. Is it over 100 that are kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
involved with the project? How does
Yeah.
that? I mean, I know you have the monthly meetings and what have you. And is that more about kind of like community support, or is there a lot of kind of like networking going on, and people are kind of cross collaborating? What does it sort of look like in
Yeah.
practice?
So there are like a couple things happening at the same time. So like right now, for instance, we're working on this thing called the 9050 archives. And I thought in we have all this like backlog of work and we maybe made it when it wasn't non-D, but of course it was like it had to be. So, what if while we're all making these films this year and we don't have anything to promote yet, let us recontextualize our past work? It costs nothing, it's a low lift, and let's do it in a collaborative way. So, right now, we're putting together a marketing campaign of like the 9050 archives. So, it is that kind of curation of like, you don't know what to watch, audience member. Here's a commercial, essentially, right? An ad, a trailer for all of these films. You click the links below and you go right there. And like that's what we'll do. And then you have, however many people signed up for that specific project. It might have been like 30 or so. We have 30 people like sending that out, and there's a network effect there. Like it's our
Mm.
version of saturation marketing, right? So there's that. There are these things that we're working on called micro labels, which is more of a like an ongoing um evolving thing where we're finding groups of people who have some sort of similarity in their films and their work. Like it might be genre, but it might be location, or it might be like kind of how you position yourself. Like we there's this conversation right now about modern social realism and what is that in film and what does it look like, and people who are interested in that are talking, getting together. And so we're forming these like tiny little micro labels where we can run our own experiments and figure out like, what works and what doesn't work. Like if
Yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
we all get a million views on this one weekend if we all band together? Maybe not. Or like can we sell out this small theater? Maybe not. Um so there's a lot of that, like those kinds of it's hard to quantify projects happening within, but then also if people are just like, I just want like support and accountability, then we have the monthly
Yeah, yeah,
meetings
yeah.
and we're trying to make those very actionable. So like you walk away from them and we're never talking about like at these meetings, we're never talking about like how bad it is. Like I think sometimes Zoom meetings can tend to be like, "Oh man, it's so bad." Like
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
and it's easy to commiserate. You want to because like sometimes it feels so lonely. Like I understand that too.
Mhm.
I love to talk shit. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear, but
No,
um
you are.
but um I love to, but, that's not what the meetings are for. The meetings are really for, like, again, taking the big ideas and being like, "Okay, here's someone presenting or sharing an idea or taking questions about, like, how they did this and how you can apply it to the film you're making right now." And then also, like, sometimes we'll do breakout rooms where people can meet and talk together. So, like, there's kind of we're trying to strike this balance between, like, structured things that people can rely on and understand and, like, also these unstructured, kind of serendipitous incubation moments where things can just happen because I feel like that's usually how things have happened for me, just, like, you know,
Yeah.
being in conversation with
Yeah,
someone.
just by accident. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, and it's interesting because I've kind of actually pitched a couple of over here in the UK, with the academic conferences and stuff like that, actually writing about non-D and what it is, because obviously people that don't know what it is really, but
Right.
like in the kind of history of independent filmmaking and what is this in relation to that. And I'm doing a piece for Taylor on the modern social realism.
Oh,
So
yes,
yeah, yeah,
I can't
yeah,
wait
yeah.
to read that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, it's a kind of a historical thing, so it puts it in a little bit of context, which is kind of what my specialty in a way. But
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
think what's interesting as well from my perspective is where the criticism comes in, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm still meaning to kind of think about how to engage with non-D films from a critical perspective, and maybe again, that's where someone like me can, as not a filmmaker but a critic, can kind of say, okay, why don't we have a series of critics who all decide to write one piece on one film, you know what I mean, to give it kind of
Oh.
something along the side. That would be quite kind of interesting, I
Oh,
think.
I would do you know, I have chills, like, that would be amazing. I would love that context and that lens, and I think that is you're bringing up another point, which I think is so vital, which is it's not just when I say filmmakers, like, I really mean, like, the film ecosystem, yes, the
Yeah, yeah,
critics,
yeah,
the
yeah.
writers, the journalists, like, people who care about movies, like, yes, we I think that's a fantastic idea. I hope you do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about it because, like, it's interesting. I'm in London, I'm in the UK, so you do feel kind of distance from where the main the main sort of center of it here. And obviously, there's a very different I mean, it's connected, but a different kind of
Yeah,
ecosystem of filmmaking production, really, in the UK
right.
than in America. But yeah, I do kind of have an intention to think about that a little bit more. Um, well, thanks so much for all your time. I really do want to talk a little bit about your film going kind of experiences, and I've got my 10 questions at the very end, so we will do that. But
Okay.
maybe we could go back to, again, it's sort of, this is a bit sort of biography, back to the kind of formative stuff. But do you remember the first film that you ever saw in the cinema?
Yeah, I don't know if this is true or not, but the
Right,
first one that I remember is Jurassic Park.
right, okay. Well, that's a
Yeah.
good starting point.
It
You know?
was yeah, it was just one of those moments where, like, it's like everything is as it should be. This is how it
Right,
should be, like
right.
yeah, like, I remember when the when the when the T-Rex, when the eye comes in front of the window, and I'm sitting next to,
Yeah,
like, my dad, and I think my brother was on the other side, and I was like, like, and I just had
yeah,
this,
yeah.
like, nothing happened except a eye came across the window, there was no jump scare, it was slow burn, and I was like, "Yes, I'm there. I believe in dinosaurs in Costa Rica. I know this is true. This is happening right now." It was so satisfying. It was so fun.
Fantastic. Yeah. So were you a film going family? You know, would you go regularly to the
Um,
auditorium?
I wouldn't say super regularly, but yeah, we did. But what we had was a wall of VHS tapes at my house
Okay,
because,
sure.
um, my parents were pirating movies, I guess. My my grandma in Florida had paid for HBO, but, like, we couldn't afford that, so, like, she would pay for HBO, and she would tape things and send us loads of tape, so it was, like, the original talk about scam, like, the original scam. So we had this wall of tapes and a printed out table of contents that was like 15 pages long of like all of these different tapes. And I would just spend what I mean, hopefully it was not hours and days, but what felt like hours and days, like going through and picking out which world I would enter this time and like, rewinding and getting, with the little
Right.
rewind deck and yeah. So that was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
my little world that
Sure.
I
Yeah.
lived in, yeah.
It's interesting, like Jurassic Park is quite a an adult film for your first film, you know what I mean? Because one of my questions is always, is there a movie that in your adolescence, you that moment where you shift from being a kid to being a teenager, like
Yeah.
mine was The Breakfast Club. When I first saw
Oh,
John Hughes' The
yeah.
Breakfast Club, it was like, shit, these are actually kids that are my age and identify with. I'm not a kid anymore. You know what I mean? But like Jurassic Park is not like, I don't know, Toy Story or something, is it? You know?
It's certainly not. No,
Yeah.
I think I was, like, 8 or 9. I'm
Wow.
sure my daughter's 7. I would not bring her to Jurassic
I
Park.
was gonna say, wow, that is
Yeah, no.
scary. Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
think it was one of those things where, like yeah, I don't know, I'm a little scrappy. My parents were probably like, "She'll be fine." Like,
You're
she's
right. Gotcha.
yeah, she'll be fine.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a film that kind of like encapsulates or influence your sort of more adult, maybe more emotional, intellectual resonance with films? Like, wow, this is really cinema. This is telling me, this is doing something new to me.
Yeah, that was Eternal Sunshine for me. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right, right. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was that came out when I was, I guess, in college, so I was a little bit older, but, like, than adolescence. But that to me because in college, I was going through heartbreak all the time because what do you do in college except go through heartbreak? That's, like, the whole point
Right.
of it, right? It's like, "Let me break your heart, you break my heart," like, things feel low stakes and yet they feel high stakes, right? And I felt that there were things in that film. Like I watched a couple years ago, I watched it back and the scene at the end, do you know it?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
do.
like know well? Do you
Yeah,
hate
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Tell me the
No,
truth.
I don't. I don't. I
You
think
like
it's
the
I think it's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
See, I never know if people are like, that's such an obvious answer, it's great, or that's such an obvious answer, it sucks. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because that's what I like. But the end when they're in the like, leaning against the wall, like, I'm feeling myself getting choked up right now. Like, she's leaning against one wall and he's leaning against the other. I forget the exact dialogue, but basically the question is like, so what if this, what if it doesn't work?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, "Yeah, what if it doesn't?" And I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
god,
yeah.
it's so good," and it
Yeah, yeah,
still
yeah, yeah.
gets me. And they're acting, I mean, like, off the charts. So
Yeah.
good.
But it's like that film I mentioned it the other day actually because I wrote a piece on a very kind of arty movie called The Beast by a guy called Bertrand Bonello.
Oh,
And,
yes.
that's I mentioned Eternal Sunshine in a similar vein because it does ask that question about the regret of the past. Like now, it's the same question. Like if I say to you, if you could go back 15 years, would you live exactly the same life? That's the question of that movie, basically. And
Uh,
knowing what you know now, and like, or if you could blank your memory and go back, would you be happy that you led the same life? Which is a very existential question, of course, and
yeah.
it's very hard to answer, honestly.
Yeah, and it makes me emotional because I feel like it's the only question. Like, what
Mm.
what are we doing?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Why, right? Like, it's
yeah,
the fundamental question that all other
yeah.
questions are trying to get to. Yeah, and I feel like Eternal Sunshine, I just felt like the writing and the execution of it, I just felt like was got to that question, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
what I think shaped me is the lingering unknown,
Mm.
and the truth of that. Like, that is the truth. Like, I don't think I'm going to get to my deathbed and be like, "Figured it out."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna have questions, and I think
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
honest.
No, it's funny because it's like I really sort of, in some ways, I admire it, but other ways, I think it's bullshit when people say, "I never look back. I have no regrets. I only look forward."
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
heard the actor Anthony Hopkins sort of say that, and it's like I kind of don't believe it, because it's like, I have so many what if questions about my
Yeah,
own life.
yeah. Well, I definitely think yeah. My dad used to say that. I used to be like, "Dad, what about this? What about" he's like, "Ah, it's in the past." And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
"You're just avoiding the question, Dad." But I tend to think, like, there are lots of things that I would have done differently, but I can't have today if I do
yeah,
them right.
yeah.
And I'm not
That's
saying
true.
today is perfect, but it's what I
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's like I think the bigger thing for me existentially is, like, what I'm truly trying to work on right now in my life is, like, being especially with my art, by the way. You asked me for the Kinsley versus links, and I was like, "Oh, no. What's my teacher gonna think?" Like, I was like, "Alright, just send them." But, I am trying to get really, good with just letting something be a historical record of where I was. Like, that series is a historical record of where I was and what I knew when I made it.
Mm.
I would not make it the same way today, and the reason that I know that I'm growing is because I wouldn't,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
I have to reconcile the fact that, like, my past artwork, my past relationships, my past choices that I've made, like, now I know better, and so I'll do
Mm.
better, as Maya Angelou said, like,
Yeah, yeah,
and that is part of, like, loving myself and having, like, respect for myself is, like, allowing myself to make mistakes. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm allowed
And
to
you
make
can't be the person you are now without going through the mistakes that you made in the past as well, which is another conundrum, you know?
Yes, and this is what we're teaching kids all the time, right? Like, my daughter will get so frustrated with stuff, and I'll be like, "Babe, this is it. It's not when you achieve this. It is the process." And she's like, "Shut
Yeah, yeah.
up." Yeah. She doesn't say shut
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
She does not say that, but she feels it.
Right. So you've got a feature in the offing,
Yeah.
yes? So
Yeah.
how much can you say anything about that?
Sure.
Whereabouts in the process are you? Not that it's a classified information, but
Classified. Yes. Hollywood can't know.
Indeed.
They're gonna really care. Um, no, yeah, it's a feature. It's about, an alien who comes to Earth to make a documentary about humans. And it is thematically about grief and loneliness and the existential questions in life, as you can tell I'm interested in, but it's also hopefully funny in some ways, maybe darkly funny, but like in the same way that Kinsley versus like doesn't take
Sure.
itself too seriously. Um, and I'm hoping, you know how it goes, that we're essentially like in the pre-production phase, and hopefully September, October, we'll
Wow.
shoot it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
lots of luck with that. I'll be interested to see how you get on, of course. Um,
Yes.
it's been
Yes.
great, really great talking to you. I've really enjoyed it. So, before we finish, though, I want you to do my 10 questions on cinematic identity, right? So,
Okay.
this is fairly quick fire.
Okay.
Give me your answer, but then you can qualify it a little bit. And then the final question is kind of specific to you. So, there's 9 questions that everybody answers. And the last one's for you specifically, right?
Okay.
So, here we go.
I hate
Question
tests.
no, it's not a test. Don't worry. It's all good fun. Um, what's your question one? What's your favorite cinema in the world, like to go to?
MoMI in New York, in Queens, the Museum of the Moving Image screening rooms.
Yeah, I kind of know of it. In terms of
Oh, if you
the
go to New York, go there.
sure,
It's perfect.
right. Question two: watching alone or watching with others?
Watching with others, mostly, unless I really, I'm in a mood where I'm like, "No one be around me," and then I'll go into my little hole. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Good answer. Um, front row or back row?
Back. Don't
Okay.
be absurd.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a
Front row's
monster.
too close to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Um, I've, question four: who's a filmmaker whose work you will always go to see in the theater?
Oof. Okay, so this is actually kind of hard because I have 2 young kids and no unlimited childcare fund. So
Gotcha.
I'm not I'm not really in the mode
Yeah.
of going out
In an
right
ideal
now.
world, though.
In an ideal world, well, it's okay, so it's kind of a hard thing to say. In an ideal world, I would be going to see new filmmakers all the time. Like, in an ideal world, I'd probably see international films, like, because I just think they're better. No offense, us, but, you know, um, maybe Yorgos Lanthimos, maybe,
Okay. Great.
yeah,
Um, who's an actor that you'll watch in anything, or actress, actor, actress?
who is let's see. Oh, well, Jesse Plemons. I like
Wow,
Jesse
that's an offbeat
Plemons.
one. Yeah, interesting.
I think
Cool.
he's so good. I think he is so good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just think he's
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
I loved him in that cameo role in that Civil War. With his
Yes.
wife as when he turns up as
Yes.
that psycho, right
He's
wing nut job.
yes, like,
Crazy.
I literally feel, like, fear right now just
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about
yeah,
him in that scene. He was
yeah, 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 yeah,
terrifying. Yeah, loved
yeah.
it.
Who's an actor that you don't quite get? Everybody else likes them, but you're like, I don't get it.
Oh, I don't know. I I I guess, I don't know if other people like her or not, but I guess, like, uh, I I don't know, Blake Lively? I don't know. I don't really watch her and stuff.
Good answer.
I guess I just feel like there's, like, marketing hype around it, and I'm like,
Right.
"Who?" Like, it's and no
Yeah, yeah,
offense,
yeah.
I'm sure she's great and
Yeah,
she
yeah, yeah,
works
yeah, yeah.
really hard,
I've
and
had a
I
couple of filmmakers refuse to answer that question because they want they don't want to alienate anybody. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, and truthfully, like, I actually will watch anyone because, again,
Right.
I'm just, like, critically minded and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Why doesn't it work?" That's as fascinating for me as when it does, so,
True, true.
I don't know.
And there is a case to be made that there are no bad actors, there's only bad direction. I've been told that as well. So,
There's also
that's
really bad
interesting.
writing.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
There's
very
bad
true.
everything out there. Yeah.
True. Um, okay, we're on question 7. Uh, will you walk out or do you always suffer through to the bitter end?
Um, this also depends on childcare. If my in-laws are watching my kids and it's free, I will walk out and, like, go do something else with my husband, and if I paid for childcare and this is what I get, then I need to, stay.
Stick it out. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. No, it makes sense. Makes sense. Question 8. What film makes first made you feel seen?
Ooh. Made me feel seen. Well, I'm trying not to say Eternal Sunshine. Um,
Yeah, you could say that.
I could say that. For time's sake, I would say Eternal Sunshine. I think
Anything recent?
oh, anything oh, I feel like I'm giving myself away. Um, I saw for the first time last summer the Before trilogy.
Really?
For the
Only
first
last summer?
time
Wow.
last
I wish
summer.
I could see those movies for fresh, for again, for the first
So,
time.
can I tell you so many people said that to me when I said
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
I said it online somewhere and, like, all the comments were like, "I wish you could see it again for the first time." Yeah, it
You
was
didn't like it or you loved it?
no, I loved it, and
Yeah,
I loved it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I love a walk and talk. I'm like, "Just have
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah. Oh, it's
opposite of
amazing.
any, like, good
Amazing.
filmmaker. I'm like, "Just have them speak." But, yeah, and I just thought that it captured something that made me sometimes as a woman, like, growing up from a young woman to a younger woman to a young woman to now a crone, I've noticed that, like, there are some times in my life where I have felt like what was unsaid meant that something wasn't real, and I felt like and I've often, like, second guessed myself and kind of internalized stuff as, like, "Maybe I'm making this up," right? And then watching that movie, I was like, "I was not making any of that up." There's
Yeah,
so much in between, and
amazing.
and it just captured that in between so beautifully.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That for me is a film because I'm kind of in age-wise, I'm aligned with their ages
Yeah,
in the 3 films, and, like, I
yeah.
remember seeing the first one, I was just thinking every time from then on, as a single man, I got on a train, I
Yes,
was like, "I wonder if Julie Delpy's gonna turn up here." You know
yes,
what I mean? It's my fantasy of, like, a romantic interlude, you know?
absolutely, and I love that, like, I'm not necessarily, like, a romance, film person, like, I'm not, like,
Mm.
necessarily going for that, but, like, again, it's the existential nature of love there, like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
does it
yeah.
mean? How do we do this?
Yeah.
Do we capture the
Yeah, yeah,
moment?
yeah.
Anyway,
No, it's
quick
so good,
fire,
it's so good.
sorry, yeah.
Okay, with 2 more to go. Okay. What's a film you'd consider a relationship deal breaker?
Like, if they don't like it,
Right,
it's
so
a
you can interpret it however you want. If like a film that somebody else loves and you're like, "Oh my god, that's a red flag," or a film that they have to like because you love it. If somebody, I don't know, your
mm,
husband, if he said, "You know what? Sunshine is a piece of shit," you wouldn't be happy about that. Do you know what I mean?
well, like, my husband is, like, one of the least judgmental people in the world, so he wouldn't
Right,
say
right. You
that.
wouldn't say that, right? Okay.
Well, here's the thing, I actually find, like, Craig, my husband and I, like, we have this, like, back and forth where, like, we each pick a movie each week, and we can't talk about it, and we, like, present it to each other, and then afterwards, we, like, talk about it. It's very nerdy. Um, like, I kind of feel like there's no deal breaker for me because I find it interesting if there's a difference. However, what I will say, just to answer the question, is that I am so happy that he and I both love being John Malkovich because if he didn't get being John Malkovich, I think like we probably in general would have less to talk about.
Mm, yeah. No, no, that makes sense. I'm much more judgmental than that. I'm like, it's like if I was a single guy now, and like I went on and like I said to somebody, "Oh, do you want to go see a movie?" And they said, "Yeah, let's go see Sex and the City 2 or something." I'd be like, "This relationship is over before it started," you know?
Yeah, that's
And
actually
I know
fair.
that's
That.
kind of bad, because like Sex and the City, the TV show, the early seasons, they're
Yeah,
like really important, I think, in terms of
yeah,
TV.
yeah.
But you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? There's certain things,
I
and you're like,
do.
I don't want to spend the rest of my life watching these kinds of movies.
Here's the deal though, if the person wants to see Sex and the City 2 as well as being John Malkovich,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
can get down.
I agree.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's
Yeah. Yeah.
explore the
Yeah.
range, but if we're only doing
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that stuff, then, like
No, but that's it. It takes a special person to see that and then go and see, Santiago by Bellatar with me for 7 hours or whatever it is. That would be a cool person.
that's a great Substack article, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
not to pitch you on your own
Indeed. Yeah. That's probably a
publication.
good idea for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question. Who would you love out of the blue to contribute a film to the 50 non-D films project?
Oh,
Like if
dude.
somebody just went, "Oh, here's a little film for you," and it was like somebody huge, who would blow your mind if they did that?
Oh, man. Um, I feel like meaning someone who I'm like, "Wow, I want them to be associated with what we're doing here," or like
Yeah, yeah, or however you want to interpret it, like you really sort of admire them, and as a director or an actor or an artist, and you think,
mm,
them being involved is like, wow, I really like them, and that's amazing that they're involved.
okay, this is gonna be like the weirdest answer. I don't know why this is coming to me, but I'm just gonna say it. It's not necessarily a filmmaker,
Okay,
but someone who would wanna be, like, in the world and, like, just contribute in some way. Oh, this is such a dumb answer. I'm just gonna say it.
say it.
The voices, you see the voices all around me, um, would be Sam Reich, who is the CEO of Dropout TV.
Okay, yeah,
It's the
I
most
don't know
random
that.
thing. The reason that I say Sam Reich is because he is doing something, I think, politically with his, Dropout TV, which is like a streaming platform that is paying the act like, paying everybody, not taking, like, private investment where they have to, like, grow exponentially, but actually investing in the cast, in the crew, in the project itself, and it is, like, blowing up right now, and people are obsessed with it, and it's improv comedy, so it's not film, but I guess, like, if Sam Reich, where are you? If he were able to, like, come into the non-dependent space and, like, I feel like I would be like, "Teach me everything you know, help me with every financial and economic model there is, and, yeah, like, be my friend." That's what I guess that's what I would not
Brilliant.
the
No,
answer
that's
that
a great.
I mean,
It's a great answer. It's a great answer. Off the top of your head, it's brilliant. Listen, Courtney, I've really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks so much for taking so much time, and good luck with everything that you do going forward.
oh, it's Dario, the pleasure is mine. Could talk to you for a long time. Thank you for having me.